Hi, I'm Chris, the creative director from Bit Games. Well, I've wanted to make video games back as far as I can remember. My first system was an Intellivision 2. I think I was around 8. You couldn't get me away from the thing. Probably about 5 years after that, I got my next machine, a Commodore 64, and that really started it all. Sandy's Blade has seen many incarnations, most of which have never come to see the light. I had designed a character in my late teens, but he had no name or purpose. In high school, I had written a short story about an axe that had a human mind, so to speak. It was a narrative. It went over well. It got me an A+. Later on, I found the story and drawings in a box and started to play around with the idea again. Eventually the axe became a sword, and I came to wonder, how did the sword have a mind in the first place? And so the new story began. We needed a hero of sorts, nothing but tragedy and an ending that would make you want to stand in oncoming traffic because it was that sad. So I wrote the story in rough. It became a comic book. I made 3 issues of it before I couldn't take drawing it anymore. They were, however, never published. I went on to become a graphic designer a couple years after that. On occasion, still sketching a character I could never let go of. Having a background of art, programming, and now design, I started to dabble in game development, my childhood dream. Never really taking it too seriously, I started with a program called Construct and began developing a game for my daughter called Go-Go Maddie. 2 different games, in fact, I've done now. The original game I did for my daughter shows my love of Sega and Capcom arcade and console games from my youth. This is about the time I met my friend and now the other co-owner of Bit Games, Davin Bigelow. When I got stuck with Go-Go Maddie, he was right there to help me with it. And one day I was telling him about my old comic and I said, wouldn't it be funny if we did like an old Nintendo-style game about this? Well, I took the joke too far. It started as me sitting there thinking, gee, I wonder what the main sprites would look like. Then it happened. I drew it out in 8-bit, NES-styled pixel art. I ended up animating it, thinking, guess I'll toss a little code in and move them around. And I kept building on it, and the next thing I knew, I had a completely working level with a boss fight. That's when I decided, hey, let's make this into a whole game. Davin joined on with me and started coding part of the boss fight and then the extra controls, and we just went from there. So I guess you could say that this was only ever meant to be just for fun, but by accident it turned into something much more. Well, we've been making this game in our spare time. We both have jobs. I also have a daughter I watch a lot of the time, and Davin also has university he attends. So we just aren't able to handle everything by ourselves. It's mostly just the music we don't have time for. I've contributed a few chiptunes to the mix, but we've hired professional chiptune musicians to handle the better part of the soundtrack. We have offered them what money we can from the Kickstarter as collateral for their time. We also have to incorporate, because that's just the thing you gotta do when you're running a company, and we also need to pay for Steam Green. We have a professional team of publicists that will be assisting us with everything during the Kickstarter and after. Their fees have to be paid. Then we come down to the Unity license and developer cost. We want to port the game to as many things as possible, but at the moment, since we've coded it in HTML5, we can only really port to Windows, Mac, and Linux. We want our game to be enjoyed by as many people as possible. Anything above our goal goes directly to our stretch goals. Wii U being our first at $10,000. This pays for the dev kit, but I believe there's also a Unity fee there as well. Davin and myself will only profit from the game sales, and even then a percentage of that will be saved towards the next project. I love pixel art, and I'm an old guy. I grew up with low res and it stayed that way basically until the end of the 90s. The games were short but fun and rewarding, and in my head I needed to start where I wanted to as a kid and work my way forward. So if the sequel comes out for this, depending on the game's success, they will probably stay 8-bit. Any other games will progress through time. The other game we're currently developing, Go-Go Maddie, is more of a 16-bit / 32-bit era game. It's pixel art, but it goes beyond what the systems at the time could do. And Sandy's Blade is like a big thank you to all the games that really hit me as a kid. Batman, Ninja Gaiden, and Castlevania on a Nintendo, Rastin, Ghosts and Goblins, and Black Tiger in the arcade. Batman heavily influenced the gameplay of Insanity's Blade, while the rest were more atmosphere of the game. To me, pixel art is video games. You automatically relate to famous game graphics. Old games you can come back to. They're not long enough that you're going to lose days at a time. You might lose one, but you'll come back to the ones you love. Always. Just like your favorite movies. Aside of the ones mentioned before, we have a ton of other ideas brewing for later down the line. But Go Maddie, which already has a lot of the main code completed, will be the next game to be released, probably later in 2014. On behalf of Causal Bit Games, I just wanted to thank everybody who supported us so far, and anybody who will be supporting us down the road. Without you, none of this would be possible. So thank you.